Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And with that said, I hope that all y'all, wherever you may be, are doing the best you can under the circumstances. And Durams, oh my goodness, there's somebody awake at this time. How are you? So I wanted to do this earlier, and I had to take a nap, and then I woke up, and then it's like, now what do I do? you know, Middle of the night, but I have, done this before in the middle of the night, so it's not really anything new, right? I just tried to stop doing it in the middle of the night, but it's about the subject, it's about the discussion, it's about putting it out there to the universe. And one of the interesting things that I continue to learn um, is how much each of us has a continuing part in the makeup of the universe, in this quantum field that we're floating around in. We Every single one of us, even though we might not realize it, we've each got a little piece part to play in this grand scheme of things. And you never know um, whether or not that little puzzle piece that is you um, will come into play to do something greater at some point. Or you may be doing something great right now, but that I'm thinking of at myself when that time when I know I've talked about it before, but it's one of the major things, went into town one night just before Christmas time about 10 years ago. And on the way back, but there was a truck that was on fire. And me and my buddy, he pulled him out of the, um, when he went and pulled him out of the truck, and the lower part of from the knee down was missing. And we took care of him. Um, Wrapped him up, stabilized him till the ambulance got there. And me and my buddy, that was the last thing on our minds and on our plate, kind of thing that we thought we'd ever have to do. So you never know when God or the Creator or just the universe is gonna throw something really hairy on you. Now, hey, Barry, how are you? So it's like so not everybody has those types of heavy things tossed upon them, if you will. But the thing is that there are a lot of smaller things that come along. And you know hopefully uh, the creator has got a little bit of if you pay attention, there'll be some greater things for you that you can step in and help make the future brighter or better, save somebody. You never know what it might be. So, and that's one of the cool things about it. So, in thinking about, how we all interact in one way, shape, or form, and that our lives are intertwined, sometimes, you know, closer together and sometimes further apart. But in the grand scheme of the world, all working on this together. So I'm thinking, was having conversation. I know I was having conversation with Barry earlier, and I'd had conversation with some other folks. I had visitors after I got done talking with Barry earlier, and the conversation was about you never know um, when you're going to be asked in the world to have some common sense. I just, well, what do we do? Or, the traffic lights broke, or like, there's so many of us that have had storms go through our areas over the last bunch of years, right? And so we're starting to get used to, well, if a tree falls across the road, what do we do? Or if there's a line down, what do we do? Well, a lot of us have had practice with that, right? And so you say, well, what about that? Well, that's information that you've learned in the quantum. Everybody around here has had to go through a hurricane or two or three or four, in the last 10 years. So you say, well, what do you mean? Well, that we're all connected because we have that shared experience, right? We know what it's like to go through a storm and for the lights to go out. We don't freak out now. We've got a candle. We've got, so we know how to treat the situation. Um, but, when the lights go out, there's a tendency to like, now what? The internet don't work, whatever. So in reflecting, and I in my last talk, um, it was about how we can stay spiritual without going crazy. We can we should maintain our spirituality without losing our minds to chaos. We should be able to tell the difference. Stay out of the chaos and stay in the green zone. You know what I mean? And so, in reflecting on that, I was like, how many folks now, with all this chaotic stuff now in 2025, how many folks still have a belief in their core um, soul mission? When I was a child, and I had the vision with Mother Mary, and she's like, I want you to do these things when you get older, and this is going to be your soul's mission. Well, I don't know, but it's in the future. But so it came up as that, and so and it changed over the years. But as I've gotten older, and I'm here at this point, hey, Susie Q. Hey Tanya, is that right? Yeah. How are you? Stay focused and what? Heartfelt? Don't trust anyone. uh, trust the goddess. Absolutely. Yes. There you go. That's a good one. Absolutely, that's a good one. Um, but so at my age at 72, I'm like, oh, how you doing, Susie? How are you? Did I say hi? I hope so. But anyway, I got to get better in my seat better. I'm sitting in the wrong spot. I kind of threw this together I mean, literally just, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm awake, I'm bored, going to do this, you know. But so with some, folks that I've met, I'm getting old, and there are a lot of folks have died, and some of them, as our discussions over the years, what we're going to do and what we wanted to do, and later on in life, and what our goals were, and what our goals were as children, and young adults, older adults, blah blah blah. Have we achieved our our goal in life, whatever that goal was. And for me, my goal in life has changed several times because the job market changed. So I was um, a construction worker and a steel worker, and then I got my own license and was building and working on folks' stuff, and then the market hit, crashed. I worked as a machinist. I worked as an engineer. I worked as a janitor. I worked as a maintenance man in in different places in a nursing home. I've worked at a lawn care. I've worked all kinds of stuff. So, and for every one of those things, there's been little side businesses and stuff. So I've worked in a lot of businesses. But one could say, well, Dave, did you ever achieve your lifelong dream? Fudge, no. Almost. My last job as an engineer, I was like, I just knew I had hit the jackpot. And then our jobs went to Mexico, you know? And oh, by the way, I listened to I got to say it was a moron. And he was talking about, and it's one of the podcasts that are sort of more well known. One, two, three, four guys, and they're discussing the tariffs and everything. And this Jap slap idiot, his goal in life, I hope his goal in life is to study up. But he says that, Americans, we don't need these kind of jobs that Trump wants back from China. Let those little Chinese hands put those things together over there and ship them to us. We don't want those kind of jobs. America is a nation of we're a service industry. And I'm screaming at the podcast. But I didn't have a way to write in the comment section. And I'm like, I worked over the many years, first trying to get a job and working in the different things, that was building small businesses that put together things. There'd be 20 people, 30 people, maybe 50 people. We built something, put something together that went for something else. And, then all of a sudden, all these little jobs went away. And so here he is like, oh, America doesn't need those kinds of jobs. We wanted to have service jobs. Well, are a service nation. You go to work at Walmart and you serve people. You go to McDonald's and you serve people. You go to work as a landscaper on the golf course so you can serve people. I, everything is just, unless you're an exec in some way, everything is a service job. It's to service somebody else. No, 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 no. We absolutely want these jobs back, um, to start building things again. And one of the biggest things to help calm people down a little bit is, regardless of how long it takes to get things right straightened out again, we need to build things in America. That's the bottom line. Well, do we need to be tinkering with this? Yes. Why? Because when the rest of the world wants to shoot us the bird, we still have all the components we need to survive. We should look at this as a survivalist nation. What does Trump want to do? He wants every single one of us to be able to survive within the boundaries of the United States. All Americans to be able to survive with each other inside our own boundaries without us having to depend on anybody else. We should be able to depend upon other Americans within our own borders. And so when people say, "Oh, this," wait, you got to look at the big picture. What is the big picture? What I and a lot of other people want, okay, is that we want to be able to have peace and stability and wealth within our own borders, with our own peoples. We want to, be able to flourish in with that, whatever that means, without having to be afraid of what's happening in, not picking on Germany, but what's going on in Germany or France or Italy or whatever. And we don't have to worry about, what China's doing. Because we'll go, oh, gee whiz, that's a shame what's going on over there in China. Oh, well, we're covered. We're all working together in America to help each other. And now, well, okay, make America great. Okay. But it's about, taking care of each other and our neighbors, not folks on the other side of the planet. We can help them out, but we got to help each other first. So, um, in our the things that are evolving now, there are people who are going, well, the things that are going on now, it doesn't fit what my soul passion is. It doesn't fit my idea of the future. And this is going too fast. And we're doing this and we're affecting people's lives. And yeah, well, change does that. And unfortunately, I was listening to the news here today, and it was Leon County in Florida, where some of the money that was coming out of the USAID program was supposed to be helping daycare for a summer program in Leon County or one of the other Taylor County. And it's like, since the money's not there, but what are they going to do for the program? Okay, that's not necessarily a good thing. All right. Um, and there are a lot of summer programs. But what would be nice is that, since so many people agreed that there was so much waste in those programs, and that the money that was said to be earmarked for something, a lot of times wasn't, would be for like the governor to be able to go, oh, so you're missing how much money that you would have gotten from a grant from this program? We'll cover it, because it couldn't have been much, maybe 10,000, maybe $15,000, that somewhere in the state of Florida's budget and within whatever, that they can not have to worry about the money coming from the federal government, that they can cover this little business, or maybe with church money or donations, because it is a worthwhile project for for the young people in the counties up there in North Florida, south of me. So, but anyway, um, what does that matter in the long run? Well, folks will say, well, that's wasn't the original plans. Our plans got changed. Well, wait, hang on. Only the parameters changed. And what do you mean, Dave? Well, you still want to help kids and families and you still want to have summer programs, right? Well, yeah. Well, just because you didn't get the money from this over here doesn't mean you can't still do it. So all these people go, oh, woe is me. I don't know what we're going to do and all this other stuff. There are so many resources, but because people got dependent upon certain areas for their resources, right? And it's like, look, all you got to do is ask another neighbor. Oh, well, we're just not going to be able to do the program. Now, wait, before you say that, before you kick it in the pants, because we all want to help out the children. We all want to help with. I've worked with summer programs over the many years doing puppet shows and volunteering and stuff. So I get the value of it. All right. So, but to just say that it's outdone, we can't do it. These people are, defeatist, right? No, wait, hang on. What is your primary goal? To help the kids. All right, then just find another way. It's not that you can't do it. Oh, well, we lost our funding from here. Then go find funding from someplace else. Tallahassee is the state capital of Florida. I'm sure you can find some funding for a summer program for the kids for a month or two or whatever it is, right? I'm sure you can arrange to get a building. Then you've already got volunteers lined up, and so what's the issue here? They want to complain. So they want to say, well, we can't do these things because, and it's like, no, you still can do them, but you are, I want to use the word um, short sightedness. But, they had it planned out. They get the money from this program here. Well, but the program ain't there no more. Okay, such is life. Life is like that. Doesn't mean you have to stop what you're doing. So there are things in life that is like, for me, over the many years, right? I've had my ups and downs, hospitals, heart attacks, you name it, right? Got to go in for eye surgery here in about 30 days. So cataract removal, trying for that too. Um, but whatever goes on, has it changed what my basic um, soul's path, what my soul contract is or was? What I had decided a long time ago that what was going to be my passion. Well, my passion has included a bunch of stuff. I have worked in the theater. I have, written two different plays. Have directed a bunch. Have acted in a whole lot more. Have traveled around as a puppeteer. I finally got a chance to work as an engineer for 7 years. And to really, work for a big company and, you know, um, be inside the Ford Motor Company plants and things and stuff, and fly on the big jet airliner and do all that kind of stuff. Play the corporate game and get to see what it was like and partake in that and make some decent money at the time. But that it didn't change what my core values were. I still want to help folks. I still would, I want to. It talked about it earlier today when we still want to take some folks canoeing on the river or in the river's way down right now. But to go out to the, Reed Bingham and because it's still below 90 in the daytime, and the evenings are in the 60s to upper 50s. So it's time to do the kayak and canoeing kind of camping thing now before it gets any hotter, right? But so I'm still open and want to do that. I still, there is still a sign at the top of my driveway, the Little Ochlockonee River, um, Hermitage. I'm still open for business for folks if they need to come down and find time and, need to relax, whether they need my presence or not. But, here's a place over here if you want to just camp out or hang out or whatever. Um, so I'm still doing what I can, in that respect. So my core values haven't changed in that. Am I still working on it? Well, yeah, but how I'm working on it has changed. It's like, okay, so this group lost their funding for the boys group or whatever, right? I mean it. I'm sorry. But stuff happens, and all it does is it should make you just look for other things rather than be defeated. And now I've been defeated over the years many times because things didn't go my way. I wanted to have a road in through down to the river by now. I wanted to have a small pond dug. It ain't done yet. I wanted to have certain things done. I wanted to have, you know, little. There won't even really be cabins. It'd be more like a shack in the down there in the woods, and have some one in different places. That'll be sort of like a deer stand. You climb up in it, and very rustic, but you can put your sleeping bags out and everything and all your rudimentaries, and spend the night up off the ground. You can watch and whatever, and experience that. So I almost got there, um, but that didn't happen. So all of the things that I really wanted to do, and I was working on them, and it's my property. Things are paid for. I didn't have to worry about anybody else except me. And then me hit the dirt, with back pains and surgeries and all the other stuff and heart attacks. So I'm still here with the property. I can still do it. Um, but my situation has changed. So that is the example. So in life, the situations change. They just do. And so people are like, well, I was going to have help over here and I didn't get it. And then something, well, I was going to get this. And so well, sometimes you get the help. Sometimes you get the funding. Sometimes you get what you need to accomplish the dreams that you have or what you'd like to do. So it's like, so for me, but there are still some basics. I'm still here on the property. I still don't owe anyone, and the taxes are paid. Um, that's a big one, right? Or big E. So I still have the ability, because I own the property and taxes are paid, that I could still achieve some of these other dreams because I ain't dead yet, right? And because I still have the property, right? So I have maintained a core value, although not everything has been done that I was hoping would be done by now. So that's just an example, right? So, but other people have their own plots and desires and what they want to do. And, well, some folks, in my humble opinion, their dreams and wishes and so forth are a little convoluted. Oh, I want a big house. I want a 3,000 square foot house and a garage and a swimming pool and okay, I guess that's all right. But you're a bagger at the local department store. And not that you can't move up in life, but there are a lot of folks who at 50 years old, they still are having that dream, Well, I, dreamt that I was going to, make make it in this world, and was going to buy a nice house and have a swimming pool, and you know, now I'm stuck in a double wide trailer with a pop up pool in the backyard, and so I have to settle for that, or they don't have a pop up pool, you know. So, but does it mean you have to give up on your dream, or does that mean you have to give up on what your core values are? Well, um, like I used to go around and play music and stuff, and I don't play music anymore, and that's a shame. It's my fault, and I need to play music again, just because it's good for folks to play music when they can, and so I need to work that out. But there are folks who, played music in the old days and don't now, like me. My buddy Kenneth, he used to play the bass and he used to go around and play all kinds of different music, country western and some, rockabilly, and so none of us play music anymore. But we all still have that inclination, right? So what's wrong with that? Well, in our younger days, we were active in the music business in some way, playing or whatever, and some of us even got paid for playing. But as old as I am now, I still have I got the music in me. I got the music in me. I got the music in me. Feeling funky, feeling good. Anyway, so but still got the inclination, but we ain't traveling around doing gigs or nothing. And so, and for me, I haven't picked up the guitar because it's been really difficult with my back to sit and try to play, and I get cramps easy, and so, but that can't be an excuse anymore, right? So, but that's personal. But to other people that I know, they don't really have an excuse. They just don't do it. They just quit doing it and had thought about going back to playing music, but they don't. So that's a shame. But their core value of what they've been doing for 50, 60, 70 years, they grew up and they sang in the choir. They played music in the band in the neighborhood. They still have that music in them, but they're not acting on it. So we still got it, right? I still like to go fishing, but I haven't been in several months, for different reasons. But a lot of it up to this point was bad weather. The river was way too high up in the 9 foot range when it's supposed to be about 4 or 5. Now it's under 3 foot. Now it's so low you could wade everywhere. But um, that shouldn't have stopped me from doing some kayaking or to go down and go fishing. So it's my own excuse. I still like to fish, but I use the height of the water as the excuse to not go. So I still have the core value of fishing, of getting out into nature, you know, versus, oh, well, I'm too old, I can't do it now. I'm still, see, so these are my examples of what my core value, my spiritualness that I'm still carrying, that I still got. All right. What have other I've seen other people just that they just have given up on so many things, right? I mean, just completely given up, and even on life, you know. And not to speak ill of my brother Dan, but he had reached a point where, with his disability, um, which included him having trouble keeping up with his diabetes and his medicine and so forth, and that there wasn't anybody around. He tried to be close to his sons, and it didn't work out. But that, he had a medical moment and passed out on the floor that landed, you know, a trip to the hospital, which a week later he passed away. None of that was planned, but he did not have a lot of gumption, get up and go, I'm going to do. He lost it. I love my brother, but he lost it. And we all knew he lost it, you know? And so, but for us, when I went down to pick up the lovely Jeep that I have inherited. If you haven't seen the Jeep, it's in a previous video. It's a really nice Jeep. Um, where was I headed with that? Oh, that me being the oldest of the brothers and sisters, I'm like, listen, if y'all are waiting on me to die, you better get in line, because I ain't giving up. I'm gonna keep fighting this stuff, and I still have these core values, and it looks like I'm basically going to take these values with me to the grave. I mean, I'm still a warrior for Christ, for example. I'm still trying to help people with spirituality. I am very strong and adamant about it and how I feel about it. Uh, you know, I firmly believe in the Charistus group, and in the angels and the divineness of it all. I know that in my lifetime, I've been helped by angels. I mean, literally plucked from, harm's way, and in other ways, just, you know, politely nudged, along in my life. So I understand, a lot of things. And as I've gotten older, the understanding of spirituality has just gotten stronger. As a shaman in training, as I have been discussing, there's nothing more for me. The shaman is to be a spiritual person. And by being a spiritual person, to learn enough to be able to teach others what it is that we've learned. And so, and that is still my core value. So, but what about other people? I see that other people have given up on things. Well, do you, do you still have prayer? Well, I don't really believe in religion. Well, I didn't ask you about religion. I asked you if you still had prayer. You can thank the creator. You can thank the universe. You don't have to thank any particular God if that makes you feel uncomfortable. Just thank the universe. Just send that good energy and say thank you to the universe. Is that too much to ask? You don't have to, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. Nah, you don't have to do nothing. But just say thank you to the universe. Well, what about the Bible? I didn't ask you to anything about the Bible, any kind of book, any kind of belief. I didn't ask you to do anything, because my mission, when Mother Mary spoke to me at 12, it was, I'm going to ask you to talk about spirituality and not about religion. And when Mother Mary and Sister Helene and Sister Teresa showed up here in my house that time, and they were like, again, this is not about religion, it's about spirituality. Because everybody's fighting over religion, and everybody has skipped right over about what it means to be spiritual. And so, I'm talking about this all the time and a bunch of videos, right? It's all I seem to be talking about, sort of. But our connectedness to the universe. And you know what? The Native Americans and just native peoples, Peruvians, I mean, Argentinians, I mean, native peoples who have an understanding of they have an understanding that we as human beings on the planet have a connection to the earth if we allow it, if we accept it. And there's so many people that is like, oh, Mother Earth, we can dig it up, blow it up, do whatever we want to. Nah. You know. Now, are there um are there things that we can do with Mother Nature and say, hey, listen, we need to mine some dirt up. We need to dig a hole over here, and get some rocks out. And it's probably going to be a pretty good sized hole when we're done. But we're going to do our best to not hurt anything else in the neighborhood. But as an entire nation, we need to do this. Is that agreeable? Okay. And down the road from here, they have great big open pit mines where they mine kitty litter. Down the road they mine some more of it. Great big open pit mines. They're mining clay. You know, further north of here, around Americas, they're mining clay, but it ends up as a ceramic. So, um, but all of these, and it's clay. So, but all of these clays are useful in our society, and three different grades of clay, from the Florida line up into almost middle Georgia. Similar clay, but not. One is used in ceramics, and the other is used for kitty litter and stuff. So, but both are important absorbents and things. So, but we have to dig them out of the ground for them to be useful. And to say, well, what are we doing digging this stuff up? Well, one can say, well, it is just clay. I've talked about the clay I got at the bottom of my well. I'm sitting on some of this clay myself, right? So, in fact, there's 2.5 miles from here, there's a big plot of land that was bought up by the mining company. And because they have found out that there's a lot of the Fuller's Earth that's down on the edge of the Little Ochlockonee River downstream from here, and they bought a big chunk of land in case they need to keep digging for this clay. They've got another site that they can dig a hole. So, but anyway, so they are thinking ahead. 5 years ago they bought up this property, right? Now they still have plenty of mining to do where they're at the moment, but they're looking 20, 30 years in the future, right? A farm that goes out, blah, blah, blah. And so they buy it up and leave it fallow, and rent it out to somebody for their cows. Um, but in case they need to dig it up for the clay, they got it covered. What's that got to do with the price of? It's because some people, businesses, corporations, they plan ahead, right? Because their core values don't change. The mining company mines clay for these particular operations. So they would use their knowledge and use their future sight to cover their butts so that their mining company will be able to continue to flourish, which, um, a lot of people are employed by this mining company, right? I mean, good money, right? Especially for around here. And it's a well respected company, and the people and so forth, they participate in the local communities and things. So you say, well, this mining company, but they're digging great big holes in the ground. Yeah, but it's at the bottom of that hole when they're done, water that turns into a great big, not a gravel pit, but there's water at the bottom. They've sort of created a lake, you know. But anyway, so yeah, but they're digging up the earth, and oh, that's so okay. We shouldn't be doing it, but there are a lot of stuff that sometimes that's what we need. Now, are those folks careful? Yeah. Are the people that work there careful about what they do? Yep. I mean, they go months, without an accident. They're proud of those types of things. So, but they're digging great big holes in the ground, Dave. I mean, but yeah, but there's several hundred people who work there, not counting the thousands of people who come and get kitty litter and oil dry from them that are distributed to millions of people around the United States alone from what's being dug up down there in Ocklawahnee. So is that good, bad, or well? But see, these folks have looked to the future. Their basic is that we are a mining company. We want to keep providing a service and a product. So this is what they're still doing after 50 years. You know, so after 50 years, do I still feel the same way about whatever it is I'm feeling about? The mining company is, and some other, but there are other businesses like the tobacco business. It's gone. They moved out, lock, stock, and barrel. What about this business? Gone. What about the sewing business and all the manufacturing that went along with it? It's gone. You say, well, that's just jobs. Yeah, but it has affected the spirituality of the people here in the South, you know? And when your spirituality is affected, because all these people had expected to work and have part time jobs when they were older, they were going to be able to supplement their income and they were going to be able to do, and so their core value, their core plans got changed without their permission. Just like they took our jobs away. My engineering job went to Mexico. So my plan of being able to work for 3 more years, which I would have easily been able to do, and to save up the amount of money to finish my house up, pay off the loan, blah, 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 blah. I'd have been sitting pretty. Instead, it was a real struggle. But I still had the house, I still had the property. I still made it, you know. My core value still hasn't changed. So, but what about everybody else? Can I say you, not necessarily you, then you mix good old Vulcan soul with zeolous stories, and vegetables grow bigger and stronger, but the mining oops search for other things. Well, Durant's the thing is that there's this layer of clay through here that the land there and around it is too sandy, and it's the wrong kind of clay. It's the white clay. It won't grow anything. You're driving through the countryside, beautiful country, and it's like the best it's good for is pasture land. But now, a little further north, a little further south, out of the range of where the clay is under the ground, you know, and a little more east or west, there's great farmland and so forth. But so in certain areas, it would just be sitting there, where actually they found where the big lumps of clay are under the ground, and they said dig here. So it hasn't affected anything else in the area, right? The only thing one might argue is that the noise pollution, but nobody lives around where the mine is. And the amount when the big tractors come out of the mine, they have clay stuck to the tires, and that it gets on the road where the mine's on one side of the road and the plant's on the other. Oh, there's clay on the road. So they use a sweeper and they sweep the clay off. But I mean, so that's the biggest thing the locals are, concerned about. But um, there are so many things that we as a society work for, like the miners who dig the clay, the people who work inside the plant, but you have to heat the clay and dry it to a certain so that it loses most of its moisture content. But this Fuller's Earth is like a sponge, man. That's why they use it for oil dry and for kitty litter. It just sucks it right up, right? Any moisture. So that's a good thing, especially with oil spills and things. So, are we doing the earth a disservice? Well, if we're digging up the clay to make oil dry, to help sop up oil spills, well, then do we have the right to dig up the clay to make the oil dry to keep from having oil spills so the oil doesn't get into the environment? You know what I mean? Well, this clay has a useful point to it, right? So, but in the bottom line, when I have, looked at pros and cons of this, I'm like, better that they're digging it out and that they're making oil dry because there have been oil spills. And at least we have a method to be able to, you know, rectify oil spills because of mining this clay and processing it. Hey, Katniss, how are you? And so, but oh, Dave, you sold out. You're for the big corporation. Well, I just see the value in it. Did I sell out? No. Oh, well, you're supposed to be an environmentalist type person and all that. Well, I still am. I know folks who work there who are very environmentally conscious. The one is a geologist type person, and we've done theater and stuff together back in the old days. And he very much. I can smell somebody's perfume. That was weird. Katniss comes on. Are you wearing perfume? That's a strange question to ask you. But I just had this whiff of perfume all of a sudden. That was strange. I don't know if perfume's really a perfumey type thing. Who else is down there? Hey, TV, a simple question to you. How do you know that you have, how do I know that I have a soul? Ah, I guess because the several times that I've had a near death experience, and also my astral projection, the lifted out of the body and kind of looked down and went, oh, you know, it's also a feeling. Um, there were times in my life that I was like, man, I can't stand it. I give up. Gonna die. Blah blah blah. And so the Creator came and spoke to me. Of course, I asked, "Help me, Jesus," and I got word. And that's why I'm still a warrior for Christ because the Christ consciousness is what helped to save me. Okay, the fact that I realized that I had to believe. And did I believe in the universe? Did I believe in the creator? Yes. Did I believe, yes. So when I started going down the list, I was like, well, if I can believe I'm part of the universe, if I can believe that, that I believe in a creator and things, then I almost certainly have to believe that I have a soul. That's because that's part of the cosmic picture. Because everlasting life is reincarnation. Oh no, yeah. Oh yeah, it is. Everlasting life, if people really understood the full meaning of, and in life everlasting, amen. That's a prayer in the Catholic Church. It's the tail end of the prayer. And life everlasting, amen. So well, what do you mean? Well, because but they don't say reincarnation. They just say life everlasting. Well, how do you get life everlasting? It's through reincarnation. you know, we come back and spend more time here. So, what do I want out of my lifetime this time around? I want to do as good as possible. So, I got my stuff lined up for whenever I get reincarnated in the future, because I can't get reincarnated in the past. So, I'm looking towards my future events. If I get my shit together here before I travel into the next dimension, that hopefully when I pop my head up when it's time for my chance to reemerge again, that I will be able to remember the things that I've done in this life, especially things to avoid, but also things to remember that are special, like the earth and people and certain energies and stuff like that. Near death experience causes oh no hallucinations, brother. That's no objective basis to claim that you saw. I didn't say I saw the creator. I said I saw my soul. Um, um, I'm an agnostic Christian. I'm a Christian without a church. I do not believe in religion, but I am very much for Christ. Um, I know that seems contradictory, but that's what it is. Yeah, from what basis is the um oh, and having had the near death experiences I've had, I've talked with other people, and it's not hallucination. Not when not when I come out of mine and I look at my doctor, and I because when I had my neck operated on, they operated on my neck 3 times. And so, the next day when I saw the doctor, I was like, Doc, what were you doing when you were doing something? He was like, how did you know I was doing that? And I said, because I watched you from up above while you were operating on my neck. I asked specific questions that I should not have known unless I saw the operation. So near death, astral projection, oh yeah, it's real. It ain't a hallucination. So, and there's a whole lot more to that. But by having those experiences, it's the feeling that I get, yeah, I got a spirit. I absolutely have a soul. And I better take care of it while I'm here. I do not need to be, making things worse for myself, which always made things worse for other people too. But um, the other thing, probably one of the basic things about the soul, is that ever since I was a little kid and being taught under the tutelage of the Catholic Church. Hey, Jody, how are you? That that we all have a soul and we're all, blah blah blah. There's this stuff, right? And so I was indoctrinated with the fact that we all have a soul long time ago. But since the indoctrination and through experience and other spiritual events in my lifetime, I concur that I have a spirit. I concur that I have a soul. Other people can say, well, I don't believe you. Okay. If you have not had the experience to where you have felt your own spirit or have felt your own soul, I'm still praying for you that you'll get that opportunity to have that experience. God is nothing more than a holy comic character. Okay. See, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in God. Prove that God exists, but I don't believe in God. See, I don't believe in the guy that's sitting up in heaven and behind the pearly gates. Don't believe it, because heaven is everywhere. God is nothing more than a construct of what the creator is. And all of the universe is creation. And we are a part of that creation. So, but you don't have to believe that. But I don't believe in a God either. So, if you're going to preach to me about, well, so prove that there is a God, I'm not here to do that because I don't think there is one. Do I believe in the Holy Spirit? Do I believe in the the spirituality of the collective? Absolutely. And our participation in the quantum, if you had been here for the first of this, I said that, we're all a part of this, of the quantum. We are all a puzzle part of this. And each one of us, even in our smallest things, we're part of this universe, whether we, agree with it or not. We are. We breathe, we meet people, we worked for people or hired people, whatever it is, we have participated in this lifetime. And therefore, our participation in this third dimension lifetime, our energy and our spirit, and our spiritual energy has been shared with the quantum energy that does exist. And so, in all these little quantum particles floating around, that's where God exists. Because each one of us has participated in the godness, if you will, of the universe. Dave, you're crazy. Yeah, okay. But there is no guy sitting in pearly gates. That ain't happening. And so, and I do not believe in the worship of any deity, period. You can believe whatever you want, absolutely. But the point is that you are saying that your belief is based on reality. You must explain how your belief is based on reality. Well, see what I was just discussing on my reality. I have had ESP situations happen over my many years. Um, I've had out of body experiences. I've had near death experiences. I've had spiritual experiences, meeting stuff in the woods, almost dying in the woods and having your spirit carried off and you watched yourself, a bunch of stuff. And if you a part of this channel, I have discussed these things in the past, but also do other experiences and things, and speaking with medicine men and Native American folks, and participating in powwows, and learning things, experiencing things, Um, how can you learn something if you don't experience it, right? So, and which has gotten me into some trouble over the years. But so my reality and what I'm discussing, and over the years on this channel, I've asked some of the folks here, I've talked about drowning. I've talked about being on the water at 2 in the morning, and it feel like something lifted me right up out of the water and took me up into space, and about these other things and the other experiences. And these are true realities. They're not hallucinations. And I know the difference because I spent a lot of years eating a bunch of acid and eating a bunch of mushrooms, a bunch of mushrooms. So I know the difference. So these experiences absolutely are my reality. But my reality is also filled with me reading books on subjects, to listening to people, um, to reviewing history and going through stuff. So it's a combination. So it's not just one thing. Well, he must have just read one book and that's nah, you know, studied Catholicism until I was 17, was stuck in that realm, was taught religion in different ways through the Christianity. I have friends of mine, well, they passed on actually, but they were Jewish. So I learned about the Jewish religion. I learned with some other folks about the Native American traditions and religions and so forth. So, I have experienced a lot of things and have been taught from these other people that that's their life. This is how you're taught. This is how you grew up. This is how and so they taught these things to me, or imparted their knowledge of how it went. So yes, it is absolutely part of my reality and my understanding, right? Now I have formulated my own little 10-cent opinion about the Godhead, because I feel, that there's too many things that says God is all around us, but then they want to make God a person. But God is all around us. God is everywhere. Yes, then how come God is a person all of a sudden again? But God is everywhere. He's everywhere. He's everywhere. Okay. And that's what I believe. God, if you will, the creator, the creative energy of the universe is everywhere. It is the quantum glue that holds us all together. And we are a part of it, whether we like it or not. Man, oh, Dave, I don't believe that you could, that's your, okay. But you have cells, you breathe in air molecules. You're a part of the deal. You know, you eat food. I don't care what kind of food. If you're eating food, if you're drinking liquid, you're a part of the quantum, because H2O, H, hydrogen 2, oxygen, H2O, and now you've got water. So now you're consuming part of the quantum every time you breathe, every time you drink, every time you eat. You know what I mean? So, oh, but I don't believe that's true. Okay. But that's my reality because that is what I believe. And all of the science and everything for many years before I started a YouTube channel, I was having um, drum sessions with people, and the discussion and the teaching that I was taught was that we are all a part of the universe, and we still are. And now that over the last 50 years, I kept calling the cosmic goo, you know, is now the quantum goo. Oh, but it really is there. That they can have looked at nanoparticles now, and they can look at things so damn small. It absolutely does exist, and science has sort of proven what a lot of the mystics and people like me who have understood about this cosmic goo is like, yeah, guess what, guys? It really does exist. And yeah, you were right. you know, our energies are shared with it all the time. I'm interacting with the cell phone and with the light coming out of here. I'm speaking to y'all as being turned into light waves and transmitted to y'all onto YouTube. And all of that is quantum stuff. It is. Tiny little particles moving through the airwaves out into the ether. This phone is talking to the router, and it's going down a wire out of the house. It's going down the um, um, fiber optics cable, out into the internet and out into the world. Woo. It's woo stuff, right? But all of this is connected in all kinds of ways. And so for me, the older I've gotten, I just realize I don't know my specific place in the universe. I know I'm sitting in this chair and I'm having a conversation with y'all. I'm fixing to hit this pipe. I know certain things in my reality, meaning I've had conversations with people. Um, you know, People like TV show up and ask questions in the chat and share their opinion. Um, and I try not to poo-poo some of these opinions. But if you've studied as much as I have over the many years, and I'm still studying, I am a shaman in training. I am a person who wants to be as spiritual as possible before I leave this third dimension plane and before I pass into the next realm. So what is my goal? That's it. And I want to help as many people along the way, you know. So one might say, well, Dave, you're trying to steer people away from religion. You're damn right. You're damn right. And I have for a while. Religion will bog you down. Religion is for, be spiritual. Absolutely, but forget all this other nonsense. Seriously. And so my answer when I was 12 from Mother Mary was for me at my age now to teach people to be spiritual and not get bogged down in religion. I'm doing it now. Am I fulfilling my soul's passion, my soul's mission? I'm working on it, I think. But so I asked this question in general to people out there. Do you still believe in your whatever it is? Yours ain't like mine. You didn't get visited by somebody who spoke of future events. And if you did, well, but to the point, um, what is your passion in life? Are you landscape and work with flowers and plants and stuff? Do you do it well? Um, Maybe you're an architecture or an architect, or maybe you're a plumber. And it requires to be a good plumber. You got to know your stuff. You know, you could be an electrician. Listen, to be a good electrician, I've seen some electricians work. Well, the wires in the box are all goofy. If you're a good electrician, man, your stuff is neat, tidy, orderly, and nothing catches fire. Um, but I mean, so your passion doesn't have to be a sport. It doesn't have to be, some kind of artsy schmartsy thing. But there are a lot of plumbers who can play music. There are a lot of people, electricians who, can do artwork. So it doesn't matter that you have a passion to do a job during your daytime, but to also have your spiritual passion. People say, well, what do you do? Well, I have a passion to go fishing. I've got a passion, and God bless my brother Dan, who's passed away and left me the Jeep and the scooter. He loved bass fishing. He had many trophies and awards over the years for winning bass tournaments. If he entered a bass tournament, he never got less than third. That means you got to catch enough fish to beat the other guys, right? Or folks. So for every bass tournament he was in, he placed nothing less than third, which is, to me, that's a good achievement. But nobody else cared, and he just lost interest, and he threw all his trophies away. And it was like, but that was accomplishments. That's a big deal. But so, brother Dan, even though he couldn't draw or anything like that, he had a passion for fishing and catching bass and doing that. He was good. That counts, you know, being outside and being, involved with nature and, catching release. Well, I'm not sure about the release part of the fish, but they never went to waste. That's for sure. So for Danny, he had a passion for boating. We owned a boat together. He had owned several boats over the years. That's why I've got my canoe and stuff out in the yard now, because I have a passion for boating, not so much on the fishing part, because Danny was always catching the fish and I was always steering the boat while he was catching them. But, that was my turn to try to steer the boat and catch fish at the same time. We'll see how that works. But so my passion is still going in the woods and going on on the water and going on the rivers and stuff. That was his passion too, and fishing. So other people have different passions of different things. Horseback riding, we never got that opportunity. Um, but our well, actually, it was Danny's mother. She was into horses and stuff, but didn't tell us until she was almost dead. Well, if it wasn't for you kids, I would have had horses and things. So for 30 years, she held a grudge against me and my sister Lynn, because Uncle Arnie adopted us, and and she was like, she wasn't real happy about it, but she put up with it. But then after all the years, she was like, I could have had horses if it weren't for you and your sister. What? Gee whiz. So, it was like, well, we could have had horses. Maybe me and Lynn would have liked having horses too, you dumb shit. But anyways, she never thought of it that way. But so even though old Bessie didn't have horses, as a girl growing up, she had horses. Fell and broke her leg, something, something, but then got married and didn't have horses. And then blamed me and my sister for her not being able to have horses because she had to take care of us. Well, we would have helped get a horse and take care of it. Don't blame it on us. But so that was her. That's how some people think. You know, it's like, well, so we had two kids, and I really liked horses, but now I got to take care of these kids. and I can't have horses because I got to take care of these kids. Well, why don't you get the kids to help you take care of the horses, you dumbass? So that's what I basically told her before she died. I said, you really missed out on a bit on a lot. She was like, well, what's that? And I said, you blame us for not having horses in your life when we would have helped you to have those horses. If I'd have had enough money, I'd have helped bought feed or whatever. I'd have, brushed the horses down at night or whatever. We knew people that was out in the country more than we were that had enough room to um, to store a horse. I mean, the Clarabelles and across the street from the Stankos on 15th Street. Back in the day, they had horses on part of their property. And so, some of us would go ride with them bareback. And, so it's the excuse that she couldn't do what she wanted to do. It's because she couldn't figure out how to get out of it. She blamed it on somebody else, me and my sister. When had she changed that way of thinking? Well, I can't have a horse right now because they're really young and they're not, they need help to take care of themselves and so forth. But when we got older, and I'm mowing the grass and this and that and whatever for other people, and we're doing stuff and sort of working in the community, we could have figured out how to have a horse. So to argue with us and it was our fault, people these days are making excuses for why they can't do something. I can't do it because Trump. I can't do this because of Trump. I stubbed my toe because of Trump. I was thinking about Trump when I walked across and I tripped and fell. It's all his damn fault. Folks can't stop doing that. And they're wrapped up in it. Everything is somebody else's fault. Well, I used to blame Reagan a lot back in the day. But in looking at it in hindsight, it was really tough for me and a lot of folks around here. We had to fight. I'm talking fight to stay alive. There were Mexicans coming in and taking farm jobs. Some of the farm jobs, like, they were transitioning. There used to be a lot of jobs with tobacco and other types of things like that. And they moved the tobacco business out. And I could always get a job working tobacco in the summertime. I knew how to, I knew what to, And then all of a sudden, within 2 years, we looked around and there wasn't a bit of tobacco being grown. So all of the tobacco drying, all of the stuff that went along with it, the buying and selling, there was millions of dollars just in Moultrie alone. So then now there's none of it. And there was, other jobs like that around here. They just were here, but then it just disappeared. Like the sewing manufacturers. Now, I couldn't sew, but I'm a mechanic and I could work on the sewing machines. And so I had a part-time job on second shift to work on sewing machines. So if, on second shift, if they had a smaller crowd than first, they could pick out a sewing machine and say, hey, Dave, go over there. That one's doing such and such. Check it out and get it working again. Okay, boss. Off you go, So in many instances, I've worked maintenance. But all of those jobs are gone. They're all gone. All the support jobs gone. All the things that people used to work together with are gone in that respect. Some of these companies, they would sponsor picnics. But what it was basically the people in the plant wanted a picnic, and they'd go up to the boss and go, "Hey, boss, can you give us a couple of $100 and picnic tables or something, or sponsor the drinks for a day for us to have a picnic?" And they'd go, "Yeah, okay, we can find some money somewhere." And then you plan it, because I used to do puppet shows for these folks. They would plan it, and so that everybody, would get off on a particular day on a Saturday, and all the folks would show up. They could have games and prizes and softball games and sack races and all that kind of stuff that you do at a picnic. And because the company shut down, the people did well. The people weren't there to interact with each other because the business was shut. So the interaction with the community, with company picnics and just community picnics, quit. And then COVID came, and then people can't get together. And so now we're on the other side of this stuff. Okay. So have we lost our will to communicate with people directly? Do we still wish to be, do we still wish to be human beings who communicate with each other verbally, like to get together and play frisbee, or get together and go golfing, or get together and play softball, or just get together, all of the, outdoor festivities and festivals that I've went to down here in the South over the years, you know, um, uh, the great Hayhira Pick-In, Hayhira, Georgia, the great Pick-In, home of the honeybees. So, but none of that anymore. So, human interaction, plus the music, plus the this and all, and the people having foods and barbecuing on the back of their truck or something. Those instances for those kinds of things are just gone now, and what a shame. I think if we had more of that, the South was a lot of fun to be in back in the day. There were festivals going on, music being played. There's a few drunk people around too, but everything was contained. I don't remember there being a lot of shootings or anything. There was the occasional between a couple of drunks, but basically things was pretty cool. So, but after all this time, with all the COVID and everything that's happened, do people, do you as a populace out there still feel the same way that you did 5 years ago? As far as outdoors or just whatever, right? So, but COVID has affected so many people, which has affected their spiritualness. It has affected their interaction with the natural world, which includes the spirit. Because if you go outside for a good brisk walk and you breathe in that good old air and you go, wow, man, gosh, I just feel energized. You have the power of the universe. You just breathed it in, and you can feel that energy. And that's a good thing. That's proof, you know? Well, I don't know about this. So, what happens when you take a big walk and you feel all energized and everything? What do you think that is? That's the power of nature. That's the power of that quantum field, by golly God. You know, pay attention, but do you walk around and, go for a run, and when you get done, you go, God, I just feel like shit. I'm going to never run again. Well, you might not ever run again, but if you're the type of person that after a run, yeah, you're tired and you're sweating, but you feel regenerated. You feel something, right? That something is part of the universe. How do you quantify it? How do you write it on on a chalkboard? Well, I feel better because, yeah, I ran a half a mile through the park, and I feel energized because I was breathing in fresh air, and yeah, okay. So in books, especially in the cards, it talks about manna, the manna from heaven. Manna is in every breath we take. It is the life of the universe. And in fact, it is the universe we're breathing in, right? So if you can kind of understand it just even a little bit. So every time I breathe, I'm breathing in oxygen, right? And some other trace elements, maybe some smog. But that the life force of the universe is actually in the air that we breathe. It's not all clogged up, just tiny little nanoparticles that interact with each other. This is happening all the time, and we're a part of it. And for me, that's where the spirit of things come in. I can just feel it. I've been around other people that I didn't want to be around. The spirit and their aura around these people were so distasteful, negative, in some cases, downright evil. Couldn't stand it, couldn't wait to get away from these people, to make distance. And there are other people that I've met that you just want to stand around or sit nearby, male or female, that you want to stand around and have conversation with. And it's like, well, I got to go. And next thing you know, you're still talking 10 minutes later and you say, well, I really should be going. And you realize you talked for another 30 minutes. And so what is it that drew you to this person to have conversation? Their energy, something about them. Why did you not even want to shake hands with that person over there? Well, because they gave me certain vibes when I went over to talk to them. And I just didn't want to have anything to do with them. So I walked away. Almost everybody has had some type of event like that. And so powerful energy. Oh, hey, Andy, how you doing? Who am I missing down here? But modern, in this monkey society, we have to play. We have to play dumb. I grew up with dogs and feel much more than others. Instinct, yes. And you can develop your instinct. I mean, you can develop your instinct in life. That's what the wisdom of the whole, your instinct is like, well, should I cross this busy street or should I wait for the light to change? Well, I'm just going to go ahead and bolt across. And instinct says, no, stay on the curb till the light changes. Versus as a young person, you go, I'm in a hurry, and you get into traffic. And that's a dumb analogy, but um, when I lived in the city, I was all the time, well, the light hadn't changed, and I'm going to skip between these cars instead of waiting on the light to change. So, but in life, sometimes we try to take these chances, in traffic, heavy traffic. And then, when we get clipped or hit or killed, you go, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that, right? Maybe I should have stayed on the curb long and waited till the light to change. Um, oh, but that's what society does. That society mandates that we wait for the light, so that all of the masses will move at one time. And that's one of those societal things that they're trying to control us. No, you dumbass. In that particular instance, it's for your safety. But everybody's moving at the same time. They want all the traffic to move in this direction. Have you ever? I've worked with some traffic controlling, and we had to, when I was taking drafting classes and so forth, we had to take a whole semester in traffic planning and and all kinds of stuff, right? Civil engineering, basically. And so you learn traffic flow, and why is this street wider, and why is it one way, and why is this one way? Why is it like? Because of traffic flow, you dumbass. When there's a lot of traffic, all the traffic, you want to go north, you get on this road, and everybody on that road's going north. Just stay on that road, and it goes north, North 41 in Tampa, right? So if you want to go south into Tampa, guess what? You take South 41, into town. So it's so simple, but why do you do this? But if you don't understand why they do certain things and how come traffic flow and what are these people thinking? And because they're trying to think above where you think. They're standing up here looking over this plan, going, we got a bunch of traffic. And when this plant lets out, there's 500 people that are leaving this plant and they can either turn left or right. How many of them turn left and how many of them turn right? And how long does it take them to get out on the highway? Now, we've got a couple of plants around here, used to have more, but so when the plant lets out, they let some of them out 5 minutes before everybody else. So everybody that's a machinist gets to leave first. Why? So they don't all clog up the street. So but everybody's so but then the horn toot toot for the second part of first shift leaving, then most of the traffic is gone out of the parking lot. So the next group of first shift going home 5 minutes later, you know, and they get to go and there's no traffic and honking in the parking lot much. And so there are ways of taking care of stuff, right? But there are traffic jams everywhere. Yes. But there are some smart people hanging around who have ideas to help. They don't solve the traffic jams, but they can mitigate it. What do I mean, mitigate? I mean, if the traffic might not move slow, might not move fast, but it does keep moving. It doesn't just come to a halt and just stop. And everybody sit there going, holy shit, how long is it going to take? No, the traffic keeps moving at a slow pace, but it keeps moving. And as long as that traffic is still moving, now this is traffic in life. This isn't just automobile traffic, but in this movement of traffic, as long as things are still progressing forward, then tempers aren't near as high. When that traffic stops and everybody has to put it into neutral and they're looking out the window at each other and in the traffic jam, then it's like, oh, holy crap. But it's about the time you go, man, here we are, we're done stopped and of it, and then and just about to put it into park and it goes, oh, all of a sudden the traffic starts inching forward again. Your people just calm right down. Just watch it, right? It's hilarious. So in life, there are these things that the traffic moves a little faster, it moves a little slower. Oh, we want to have all these things happen, in Trump's first 100 days. Remember now, it took 4, 8, 12, 10. It took, 15, 18 years to set this mess up. Years, at least the last 4. And it's going to take more than 3 months, 100 days to fix this mess. But people are so used to having things happen all at once, immediate results, that guess what? folks, my friends, you got to be patient. And yes, we need some of these little jobs. I wish that I could remember the PDF or PFD or something. It's 2 or 3 letters, and it's a 4 guys or 5 guys that, and they interview other people too. But we're talking about the 100 days. I couldn't believe he said we don't need those stinking jobs from China. Let them Chinese with their little hands make all them things over there. And I'm like, do you know that some of those little things over there are actually done by, computer type robot things that put this stuff together? It's not little Chinese hands that actually put a lot of this stuff together. Maybe they might package it, but um, there are a lot of people, in this country who would love to have a job just putting something together, that they could go to work every day and know that they can put this little instrument together, and that the job that they do makes this instrument work. They want to make sure that if it's a radio, they want to make sure that the little tuner is sitting in the radio right. They want to make sure that the buttons work on and off. It clicks. Make sure that the little needle moves across for changing the channel. So and then you can put the back on it. And so your job of assembling a small transistor radio. Oh, let the Japanese do it. Let somebody else do it. We're a service country. There are people who would do real well doing that job, and it would be here in the United States. And in case anything happened with shipping or the ocean or a war or whatever, that we could still build what we need and stuff we don't need here in this country. Yes, keep praying for that. It's going to take time to turn this around. It took them 4 years to destroy it all. Actually longer than that, but with the NAFTA deal, right? So if we get manufacturing back here, why am I bringing this up? It's because people who had dreams, like me, going to finish out with an engineering job, going to save up money, going to be able to do this and that, going to be able to finish my house while my roof still leaks, going to be able to, um, they bring those kinds of things back to the people of the United States to where they can work, earn money, gain trust with themselves, and pick up the story, pick up their life's dream that was destroyed because of COVID and these other factors. It's going to make a big difference. But folks have got to be calm and got to chill out in the meantime. It's got to work time's got to work its way through. Now, for example, I know there's only a few of you. Good night, whoever's there. When I was in Detroit, we're going to visit one of the Chrysler plants there, and also a Ford plant in Detroit, right? So we're driving around, and the person I was with had been to these buildings several times himself. It was my first time in Detroit. So he's driving around and he's showing me these different plants, and I'm like, well, what's with all these plants? And he said, well, the powers that be back in the day, all Ford, Chrysler, Chevy, all of them now, saw that Canada, right across the bridge over into Windsor, Canadian wages were cheaper. So they moved engine plants over to Windsor for Ford, because I was in the plant where they were building the engines. So I know what they're talking about. So Now that Trump has posed a tariff, 30 miles away are thousands of V6 engines in a Ford plant, but in Canada. But it's going to cost them more money to get those engines back into the United States to put in the cars. Because these bright ass folks years ago decided to move these these automotive plants across the river into Canada. So Winter's got a couple of, different, there's a Chrysler plant and a Ford plant, and I'm not sure about any of the others, but, and they're literally, 30 miles from Detroit, but they're across the river and in Canada. So you say, well, Dave, what does that matter? Well, the issues now, there are a lot of stuff that Americans sent their business over to the Canadians because the Canadians were cheaper, period. And because there were no tariffs, they didn't care. So they stole the jobs from American workers, gave it to the Canadians, and then brought the product back into America to finish making the cars. That's the way it's been for a while now. So now what these tariffs and everything are is it's forcing all of these auto plants that were cheating Americans, okay, by having these assembly plants and other things across the river from Detroit. They're moving them back. But they have to move the equipment, not just the product. But so they've got to move the equipment, which is a lot. And so they've got to move these things, and they've got to make sure they abandon some of these plants. They're just standing, great big steel hulks, right? That, in 6 months' time, they could rebuild some of these things. And in 6 months' time, they could be moving that machinery back across the river from Windsor back into Detroit again and be in full production with making cars in America again. And people are going, well, I don't understand any of this. Listen, I saw it with my own eyes. I was in these engine plants and, Ford. And, well, I wasn't in the Chrysler plant. They wouldn't let me in. I had to stay in the visitor section. But, but that's the way it is. So to have things get back to normal is going to allow people to like, well, I had a dream, but then we all lost our job. And then was going to save up and build a house and have money, that when I retired that I could, live a comfortable life and instead of having to fight, and so that can go back to that at some point. It will reestablish, but wait a minute, these workers now that most of them, there's homeless people up there. There's so many talented people in the Detroit area and stuff up there, that machinists and things and stuff like that. And I've heard other people who don't know shit about it. What do we need a machinist for? Get the Japanese to do it. No, 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 no. One of my first jobs was as a machinist, to learn how to use a drill press. Then I learned how to do these other things. And then I learned how to be an engineer. So, no, working in a machine shop and doing simple little things, tasks like that is very important for people who want to be an apprentice. That's how I learned to do all these myriad of things in my lifetime, because there were all these little jobs that needed to be done. And I would volunteer for them. So, no, we need these kinds of things, and people need these kinds of things. so that they can learn different skills in life. So folks need to go back to school, and they need to go to a trade school. They need to learn machine skills, because all of the business that are coming back, they're bringing machines. Now, you may not know how to work on a, a Briggs and Stratton 5 horsepower motor, but you have worked with lawn equipment before. It's not the same, but it's very close. You're going to be a good asset. If you have never worked as a mechanic and don't know what wrenches are or a socket or anything, then when it comes time for jobs to be opened up and they need people to work on these machines that build product, but do you know how to use a screwdriver? Well, is that something that you turn with your hand? Well, yeah. Well, I seen it on a YouTube video once. Yeah, well, can you use it? Well, I don't, but okay. So the job's coming back, young or old. I mean, as old as I am, I could get a job again as an engineer troubleshooting equipment and troubleshooting different things and what I know about metallurgy and so forth to help, manufacturing to be more effective. So yeah, bring this stuff back. But folks don't know how to use a slide rule. They don't know how to, use certain pieces of equipment. Everything is supposed to be computer, but you got to set the computer up. You got to have the knowledge to be able to set things up. Oh yeah, but AI will show me. Oh, shut up. You got to be able. If you want to build a house, you got to lay it out. I need so many 2x4s over here. There's going to be a corner post over here. The door frame's going to be like this. So you got to lay it out. So same thing in anything else that you build. I mean, even if a lady's making a dress or sewing a pair of jeans, you got to have a pattern. You got to follow the pattern. Otherwise, God knows what it's going to look like or if it will fit. So, but people don't know how to work with these kinds of things because, oh, let the Japanese, let the Chinese do it. We don't need those kind of jobs here. And that's why a lot of our Gen Z population is so fucking dumb. Seriously. So, but anyway, and what does this matter with the theme for this video? Is because by these things becoming more normal and by giving human beings a better opportunity to achieve simple things in life, people's dreams that I used to have, that friends of mine used to have, but the economy and other things happened. So our dreams were literally taken away. I still got my property. I still got a house that needs a roof. I'm still here. I'm still fairly healthy. Okay, glad for that. But it wasn't supposed to be this way. If I could have kept my job, if I could, the business we were in didn't busy all the time. So it wasn't like we couldn't sell a product. No, we were selling shit all the, but it was busy. But they figured that the Mexicans would make it cheap. And so they put 750 of us out of work. And all of the peripheral businesses and stuff around there. Thousands of people lost their jobs and work and stuff. You get these jobs to come back. Then the local store is going to hire an extra person because at break time, lunchtime, and when people get off of work, they're going to be getting gas, they're going to be getting beer, they're going to be getting cigarettes and stuff. Lunchtime, they're going to be getting the food or whatever. So you're going to It's not going to be slow anymore. You're going to have to hire an extra person to help you, work the cash register and everything through the busy times. Well, then that person, everything expands. So by doing that, then people have hopes and dreams again. People know that right now the people's spirits have been broken because of all of these things that have changed. To start having them change back where people can see, wow, they're gonna, there's an aluminum plant in Tifton, for example, used to be. And as far as I know, when talking with some people, that a lot of the extrusion equipment and stuff is still there because they couldn't sell it. And so there's a plant that used to make aluminum products, angle irons and disc things and stuff, but very busy, very competitive. Used to make things. They used to bring the aluminum in on billets on flat cars, which was right beside the plant. Many people worked there, was good for business in Tifton and the surrounding area, and it was made in America. But then everything went to China and other places. So that aluminum plant, because it had still has equipment, could very well start back up in Tifton, Georgia. So that aluminum products, again, because of the Trump tariffs and, oh my God, he's going to kill us all. That means that people in Tifton, Georgia can go back to work making aluminum again, which they used to do for like 25 years or more. So to bring back those jobs is going to bring back hope for people. And guess what it's going to do? It's going to lift their spirits. Well, wait a minute now. How can you prove that we have a spirit? How can you prove that we got a soul? Well, when somebody gets a job again, when somebody sees that the aluminum plant is up and running again, when people can see that, oh my God, there's stuff going on again. They took this from us years ago, but now it's coming back. My neighbor got hired on, because he's a mechanic to work on the line. He's going to make $25 an hour starting pay. That's great. And this and so people start humming and buzzing. And so the guy that's working on the line now at $25 an hour, now he can spend money in town. Now he can go to the local store and buy a something, something. Now he can go down and buy a new or used car or whatever, right? Now he can go down and buy furniture. It goes around. So what it's going to do is give folks hope. And that hope is going to lift their spirits. Oh my God, there I am talking about spirits again. When somebody knows that I just got hired on. I just got hired on for, $22 an hour, man. I just got hired, man. A long-term job in a factory that's coming back for $22 an hour, man. Are you kidding me? You know how happy that's going to make people? He's going to go home and tell his mama, daddy, all his chillins, all his neighbors and everybody. And so everybody's going to be uplifted because JoJo got a new job paying good money at the aluminum factory they just opened up again. Now that's just Tifton, Georgia, okay? But it's a very real thing because I know folks still up in Tifton and that used to work there, and the fact that they didn't ever take everything out of there. So technically, with a little bit of this and that, they could have that plant up and running at least partially in a couple of months. Easy. So Americans producing products for Americans. And that's going to uplift the spirits. Oh, God, I used the word again. How do you know? There's that feeling inside that just, man, it makes me feel good to have. Oh, man, I don't have to worry about paying my electric bill now. I got a decent job that's going to be there every day. I'm going to have a decent job to feed my kids, be able to send them to school. And that's because the aluminum plant's opening back up in Tifton, Georgia. So this is going to be happening all across America. Oh, but Trump, he's Hitler, and Trump don't, he's going to kill us all. And Trump, listen, having been in the business, like I've stated, having watched industrial plants close, I've worked for a dozen different plants that closed. Not because we did anything wrong. It's because they moved them out of country. To bring those jobs back, one particular job was we made little little drill bits, high speed drill bits, special size, and you had to keep the machine running. There were women that did certain things that there were metrology type persons. I worked in a machine shop. We had to I had to learn how to grind these really funky angles and do some other. So, but in doing so, but then we walked in one day, and there was about 15 to 20 people that worked second shift. There weren't any machinists, but there was one or two mechanics. But then first shift, there was like seven of us that worked in the machine shop, and 20 people out on the floor. Walked in, and everybody got a pink slip. What's wrong? Nothing. They're moving the business. Why? And well, they got cheaper labor someplace else. And within a week, every single machine that was in that building was gone. The building was empty within a week, and all of our jobs gone. So, did that make us feel bad? You damn right. I quit another job at working at Mall Aircraft to work there. So I go there and I'm working there, and then I get a pink slip and go, well, fuck. I could have stayed working at the airplane factory a little longer. Then after I lost my job there, I had to go back to Mall and beg to see if they'd let me come back. So, what does it do for our spirit? A lot. So I never lost my core passion, my core spirit, right? I'm doing it. I'm a little clumsy at it. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I know that I'm somehow on the right track, and I need to keep up with it. I need to keep learning. I need to um, keep trying to spread what knowledge I have, at least to get people to think. Whether you agree with me or not, think about it. That's why I'm here, right? Think about it. So, but from the spiritual standpoint, you know, things in general will feel better. Well, Dave, what do you mean feel better? Well, by feeling better, ain't that one of those nonsensical spiritual things? If you're feeling better, doesn't that imply that maybe you might have a soul or something that's inside of us that when we feel, we've been outside, we've had that exciting moment where whatever it is, and we feel ecstatic, you know, to me, that proves that we do have a soul. That spirit that overwhelms us, the spirit that overwhelms us when someone dies, passes away, or is in a bad accident or something, and you weep uncontrollably, and you feel that It's a darkness. It's a, but see, that's the spirit. It's the spirit because we feel bad for something that's happened around us, a person passing away or whatever. So, but at the same time that we feel badly and our spirit is down, I spoke with my sister and Brad and his wife, and we sat around and we had dinner. And I don't know if it'll show up. That was us. We went to dinner in honor of my brother for my sister's birthday. And, you know, me and my sister both had a tear in our eye, but most of what we talked about and, the food that we ate and everything was centered around, Brother Danny and what, with fond memories. So our spirits were down because he was dead, but our spirits were elated that we had shared good times with him over the years. So conflicting feelings, conflicting spiritual feelings, or is that your soul, or is that a part of, you know what I mean? So I say because of my out of body experiences and near death experiences that I have seen my soul. I look down and go, oh, there it is, kind of thing, I know that's weird. But so I can't prove it to anybody else, but I have proven it to myself. And so I can have that discussion. I know that I have a spirit. I know that I have a soul. I know that because 10 years ago or so, I was in such a bad way. I asked the creator to send an angel to literally take over my body to get me through what I was going through. And it happened while walking. So, oh my God, you can't do that. The devil, listen, the devil was chasing me and had a hand on me when this entity came and said, no, 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 and stayed until I could correct myself and get back on my own 2 feet without falling flat on my face. I still had issues, but I had to have direct issue help. So, how do I know this is because of my experience? How do I know this to be true? Because it happened to me. You know, um, do you know what it's like to have a heart attack? Yes, because I've had two. Okay. Do you know what it's like to have the rotor rooter? Yes, because I've had it, like 7 months ago. My rotor rootered me. Do you know what it's like to have a leg broken? Yes. Do you know what it's like to have any other bones broken? Yes. I've had, my ribs cracked all the way down on one side. I know what it's like to have that. Do you know what it's like to? Yes. Well, if somebody says, well, do you know what it's like to have a broken bone? Well, no, I've been lucky. I've never, okay. Then don't tell me you know what it's like because you don't. Well, have you, I was bitten by a dog and I've got scars underneath my mustache and there are small scars on my side where the dog came up and grabbed me with his paws and bit me on the lip, bit through my lip, blood everywhere, had to go, get emergency surgery at the doctor's office. He did a good job under the circumstances, but so have you ever been bit by a dog in the face? No. Then don't tell me you know how I feel. I mean, it's just, and you say, well, where did you, where did you get your, how did you formulate your reality? Did you formulate your reality by your experiences? Well, yeah. I've had things like been bitten in the face by a dog. I've had, blah, blah, and I've had this done. I've had my leg broken, and I've had ribs cracked and broken, and I couldn't breathe. Yeah, I've had these things, and all before I was 16. you know, where some people have never had that much happen to them in their whole lifetime. I had these things happen by the time I was 15, or maybe even 14, 15. But to the point. So, but when somebody says, "Well, I know how you feel," or "That ain't nothing," and they try to well, whatever you went through wasn't that big a deal. You get bit in the face by a dog. You get your leg broken, watch your foot fly past your head. You have, these other things happen to you. And then let's have the conversation. I'm not saying you should pity me in any way, but you're trying to make my experiences as null and void. They don't count. And well, so you had that happen to you. Big deal. No, it was a big deal for me. Stayed in the hospital, had to, be in a cast for 10 weeks, had to go through, physical therapy for, 10 months, and I still couldn't walk right. I had to have two other surgeries to fix. Wait a minute, what are you talking about? You broke your leg, big deal. Years, I'm still having problems with it at 72. So, but there are people who just toss it aside. So what? Well, so you broke your leg. No, and it was a little bit more than that. But what it ends up being is you broke your leg, right? Well, yes. Okay, that's what's on the sheet. It doesn't say that you broke your leg and had complications for the next 5 years and that you had to go back in the hospital and you had to go have, no, it just says you had an accident. Your leg was broken. Yep. True. Yep. Okay. It doesn't say anything else about the rest of the story. So just because it says a thing, broken leg, yeah, but look at all the other stuff that went with it. Oh, well, you just broke your leg. So people can just categorize some instances, a broken leg. It doesn't say compound fracture. It doesn't say blah, blah, blah. It doesn't say, just says broken leg. So there are a lot of legs that are broken. It's a clean cut. You get put in a cast, and in 8 weeks' time, no, I had to have, pins in my leg. I had to have, because it was broken in the knee joint, I had to have special therapy. No. So the categorization of me and a broken leg fits in with other people who've had broken legs, but that didn't have any extra stuff happen. Broken leg in a cast, recoup, they're done. Right? No problems, right? Then there's the rare few of us who have compound fractures, who have issues. We have to have more operations. We have to have corrective surgeries. It's still a broken leg. So when people talk about certain things, well, it's just a gnat, or it's just a this. It's just. And then they want to fit whatever it is into their column. And then you go, but wait a minute, there's more to it than that. No, it's just a broken bone. Or it's just a broken water hose. It's just a broken water line, Yeah, but the reason the water line is broken is because there's too much pressure, and whoever put the water lines in did a crappy job. And the whole street is leaking, and the water main is broken. I'm talking about something that happened years ago in this this subdivision I was working in, and it was the city's fault. They had put in faulty, plumbing. The city put in faulty plumbing with their water mains and everything, and a 5-inch pipe, the joint coming loose and water shooting straight up in the air like a fire hydrant, and people in the neighborhood don't have water, and they come and shut it out for 2 days because they don't have a crew to come fix it. And I'm like, what? So the incompetence of people, right? So there are things that happen in our lifetimes that, like all these people that lost water right in the middle of a bath, can't finish it, taking a shower, la di da di da, no water. Middle of cooking supper, no water. And, had they been warned, they could have drawn water, you know what I mean? Um, so in life, there are things like them folks in that neighborhood, like us losing our jobs. Sometimes the water gets turned off on us, or the lights, without any warning, and we're stuck. So we have had that issue with the COVID stuff and how things were locked down and how businesses were shut down, how things were all moved. We as a society are going to have to shake off that mess and pick up where we left off, because for me, my original dream is still there. I still want to finish the roof on my house so it don't leak. I still want to be able to, finish my truck and fix it up. Now I got a Jeep and stuff. That wasn't planned, but I mean, there are certain things that I wanted to finish up on my house because I got, the rug pulled out from under me. I know other people that would just like to be able to finish some of the things that they had started when conditions were right. And now they're like me. I got a half finished porch out there, not any extra money to, start working on it again. My back is bad, and the people who promised to help me never showed up. And so there are all these things, but I haven't given up, and neither have some other people. And talking at the store the other day, well, actually, it was at the waiting room. We're all, looking forward to these changes that are going on and coming into effect, because us old timers know what it means to have that feeling of completeness. What? Yeah, it's a feeling. You did a good job today. You washed the car, you gave it a wax job, and you look out there and it's all shiny and pretty, and you feel proud of the job you did. You felt it. I feel proud. I feel good about how my truck or car looks. I feel good, right? So where did that feeling of good come from? Where did that feeling of satisfaction come from? The universe. It comes from our thought patterns. It comes from our actions. Polish up the vehicle. We want to make it look shiny. Want to make it look, the best as possible. And you want to do a good job. Impress the neighbors with how good your wax job is. So you're proud of the work that you do. You're proud when you're done. Well, what brings in the proud? It's that feeling. It's that spiritual feeling. Oh, there's a spirit again, right? There is the spirit of of being proud to do a good job. You're just waxing the damn car, but you still want to do a good job. You want it to look good. Right? So, but all of these things are based around some kind of feeling in the end. You feel like the car needs washed. Wow, it's dirty. I really need to wash it. I feel like the car needs washed. And when was the last time I waxed it? Don't know. So I feel like it needs washed, and maybe I'll wax it too. 2 for 1, right? So, but wait a minute, but it's a feeling that you got. to go do the action. Well, you see the grass is tall and you go, yeah, well, the grass is tall. Well, it doesn't need mowed today. Well, then it comes whatever the time is that you have this feeling that you can't let the grass go any further. You got to cut it. It's time to cut the grass. Well, how do you know? Well, it's tall, but just had a feeling, going to go cut the grass. So all of these things that we do, a lot of them, are based on these false feelings. Oh, there are cats out there. I hear them. What they're arguing too. Wow. I hear them. Well, they're getting after it. But so anyway, in the spirit of things, rather than try to deny that some of this stuff don't exist, well, what made you, think about this today? Well, I had a feeling. Well, after I watched this movie, it kind of made me happy, and I was laughing all day at the jokes, and I had a really good feeling. Da-dum, da-dum, there it goes again, right? More feelings, more, well, that uplifts us, especially a good, nice feeling, laughter, our spirits are up, man. Or there goes our spirits. We're uplifted, which makes our soul feel better. Soul train, right? Um, get on board. But anyway, so it does matter. People want to argue and say nay, and none of this is, it's not a real reality, or, I'm making up my own reality. But that is true. I am making my own reality, as we all are. I want to go out tomorrow and finish mowing the grass. I found out why my mower deck fell. And when some folks were here today, they helped me get it up on blocks so I can get under it and put it back together again so I can finish mowing the yard. And that John Deere is heavy. Oh, crap. I've got other lawnmowers I used to just pick up. I went to go pick up that John Deere, and it was like, what? Mandy grabbed one side and I grabbed the other, and the two of us lifted it up. Just the front, right? Holy crap. Just heavy. But anyway, um, so my spirits are up because I found out what was wrong with the lawnmower. My spirits are up because she and tall, dark, and handsome lady. She'd go, oh, Mr. Dave. She heard me say that. But that they were able to help me for a few minutes in this little tiny thing that I needed help to do. And by golly, the lawnmower was really heavy. So I needed that help. But anyway, so when things happened, didn't know she was coming. I didn't know she was bringing her daughter, which was absolutely wonderful to have the visit, right? And then to have that 2 minutes of help with the lawnmower. I mean, so you never know when stuff's going to happen. And for me, that little bit of stuff helped to bring joy to my day. It made me, I wasn't feeling bad, but it made me feel even better. What made me feel better? Better than what? Well, I was sitting around, and now I get a hug from these two nice ladies, and I get help with the lawnmower for a minute. I mean, so positive things happen, which gave me positive reinforcement in the world. It was positive energy from these things that happened. So there was positive energy electrons flowing in the quantum that came and smacked me upside my chest and my head and filled my soul and my spirit with a really nice, good, warm, fuzzy feeling. It's in the quantum. but that is my reality. Yeah. Do I create it? Yeah. Sometimes people show up and help me to create my reality. Mandy and daughter showed up and was not expecting it. So that was in addition to what I was planning on doing in my reality today. See what I mean? So the reality is still the same, but somebody came. Now, my reality would have just been the same had they not showed up. But I got an extra plus plus in the column today because they did show up, right? So, which made me feel better, which that energy in the quantum and the hugs that we pass to each other and the good energy and the conversation and the laughter, all of that is good. It's all positive going into the quantum. But yes, it is a construct. I was sitting here and they drove up and we constructed our conversation. We can constructed having a 420. We constructed walking in the yard and showing off the flowers, and we construct, our reality. We used the reality that was here to go for a walk, to have a conversation, so within the reality that's just here, we created our own reality by walking and talking and interacting with the reality that's here, just the trees and the grass. So, of course, we create our own reality. You got to go to the store? Okay. You get in the vehicle, you drive to the store, and on the way, you're creating the reality as you go. Well, I'm just going to the store. Yeah, but you created it. What do you mean? Well, you created which road you went down. You created whether or not you were going to stop at a stop sign. You were, made sure that you didn't run over anything, person, animal, you know what I mean? So, you created a reality just by going to the store and what you picked up at the store, who you talked to at the store or didn't, whether or not you went anywhere else, whether or not you came the same way that you went to the store. All these things you absolutely create in your reality. But the reality is the road is still in the same place. This road always goes to this store. Now they might move the store, but the road's going to be there. So you're going to go to Thomasville, you go down the Thomasville Road. So you want to go to Coolidge, you go down the Coolidge Road. And if you go down the Coolidge Road, it leads to guess what? The Coolidge store, So, and these things don't change. But my reality changes when I travel on these roads, when I travel to that store, when I buy something, don't buy something, when my interaction with people, when I go down the road, I didn't hit the dog that runs out that barks every time. The farmer didn't, I watched the farmer plowing his field. He wasn't doing it the last time. So my reality has changed because other people's realities are changing. The guy's plowing his field, lady's out watering her garden, whatever, right? So my reality is what I'm making it because I need to go to the store and go home safely, right? So, yes, that's my reality. Is there anything mesmerizing or any kind of matrix thing about it? Not really. But yes, I do create it. Yes, my reality is what I make it. And you say, well, I don't know, what about this other? What about all this other stuff? If I can go to the store and buy what I need and come back safely and still have money in my pocket, that's like a good thing. It's like you accomplished this. When you get older, like me, and going to the store and getting a gallon of milk and coming home again is like a really big chore. It takes you hours to like make it to the car. It takes you an hour to clear your head so that you can drive. And then when you get to the store, you have to get out and you don't feel like walking. So, but you muster up the strength and so your reality sucks. But the store is still there. You still have to take a vehicle. The roads still go in the same direction. So all these things are the same. It's what I feel like what happens along the way is what our reality ends up being. But I can take a different road coming home. I can leave Duggar at the house or he can go with me. And, we can stop at the bridge and look at the river, or we drive over it real slow and just look out the window. So there are all kinds of things I can do to change that reality. Hey, Chloe. So, but when you be sweet to Romsky and anybody else that's going, what time is it? Oh, it's almost at 20. I got enough in here. And then I'm going to let y'all go. Um, but so in our realities, in our futures, in our future spirits, you know, do we leave it all chopped up? Do you believe that we can't fix it in any way? There are people, oh, in the matrix and, this, that, and the other thing. Well, if you're sitting there looking out the window, you know that you need to cut the grass. Now I'm thinking about myself. I know I need to cut the grass. I know that the lawnmower lost the thing and Humpty thumped the other day. I know that I got to fix it first before I can mow. I know what it is I need to do to fix it. So in my reality, now is this a matrix? Because I have the information. I need a part for the front end. I got it lifted up off the ground enough for me to. Do I have enough gas? Yeah, I need to check the gas, but I had a half a tank in there. And so what about? I need to check the oil. So there are certain things that lawnmower is going to run. Is it in a matrix of stuff? No, it's sitting out there in the yard. I need to go out there and piddle with it, lift up the hood, and check the oil and make sure that I got enough gas. Drop a lid, get on it, and crank it up and mow. Is that the matrix? Is there something else to that simple chore, that simple, the steps that you go through? And you say, well, Dave, you're just talking about mowing the grass. Yeah, but life has got all of these things that are just one step, the next step, the next step in life. Well, you fixing supper. Okay. You got to cook this. You got to clean up the table. You got to dun, 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 dun. So you do these things to get ready for supper or dinner or breakfast or whatever. But is that part of the matrix? What do you mean by the matrix? Oh, well, there's this subset of stuff. Okay. Now I say the matrix is this subset of stuff when other entities create a subset of stuff. In other words, me on my own, just interacting with what me and Duggar do every day, there is no matrix to speak of. But now another entity could come, or maybe already here, that could interfere with my energies and become a poltergeist and drop stuff on my head from, which has happened, by the way. And so I can be spiritually attacked. And now that would change the matrix of things. But if I'm just doing everyday chores and grass and this and going to the store, there is no matrix involved in that. At least I don't feel that way. But there are other people who create a matrix. They create issues, they create situations, And because they do these things that are above and beyond normal, I mean, there's business, and then there are people who are working in the background, and maybe somebody's pilfering a little something, or maybe somebody's doing something, or helping somebody do a job on the side for free, or there's something else going on, right? It's not necessarily shady, but there's something else, and that can be the matrix of a business. There's well, there's the buying and selling of the product. Yeah, well, then you have to know what the inventory is. Yeah, then you have to know how to inventory, and then you have to know, your cost analysis, and so in that, it's basic. You buy stuff, you sell it. You make sure that when you need more parts, you check and see how many you need, how many you sold, and you order that much, right? So it's simple until you start screwing with the system. And then it becomes a matrix of things. So, anyway, is life a matrix? And I feel life's a matrix only if you make it. In certain circumstances, it absolutely is. But there are folks who are walking around, everything's a matrix, everything's a matrix. I just don't see it that way. Because not everything is complicated so much. Hey, Lucky Stone, how are you? Chloe, who else is in the house? You're feeling a lot better? Good, good, good. So, but anyway, it's a 20 in my book. And I want to say, for folks, figure out, if you had any kind of plan or any kind of um, soul experience or soul, I keep losing the word, a soul message, or for life. Now, if you're going to play the piano, that you become a pianist. I pee all the time and think, but never mind. But you become a pianist or a violinist, or or a painter or a football player, whatever it is that you do, but that you do it right, and that you have fulfilled your own spiritualness. Like, I always felt like I wanted to become a doctor. Well, did you? No. Well, but I got a job selling medical equipment. Okay, you kind of stayed in the medical stuff. Well, I wanted to be a mechanic. Okay, but I'm a mechanic for 747s. Oh, well, so, or I'm a mechanic, at a bicycle shop. You say, well, which is more important? Well, the mechanic that fixes airplanes, right? Well, I don't know. What about the mechanic who fixes bicycles and little scooters and things, that helps the population in a neighborhood to be, the kids that don't have accidents, their handlebars work? And I mean, so you say, well, this mechanic that works at a bike shop has a lot of responsibility in helping to keep his clients safe with their motor vehicles, bikes and accessories, right? But what about that jet engine mechanic? Well, yeah, he keeps that jet engine in running, so it keeps the airplane in the sky. Now that's damned important too. So, but is one more important than the other? Because each of the mechanics are using tools and mechanics and knowledge, right, that they've acquired. But each of the mechanics, in doing their job, they realize how important it is to do a good job. So the person, they replace the tire or the wheel on a bicycle, you want to make sure that the thing is running true, so that the person who gets on the bicycle has a good experience and the chain don't come off. The same thing with the jet engine. You fix the engine, you replace the blades on the tent stage, and that you put everything back together again and fire that puppy up. and it's just great. And then you're proud of it because now that Pratt and Whitney engine's going to help that airplane get across the Pacific or something, you know. So you can understand how important your job is as the mechanic of what you're doing. But both have to do with safety and whatever of people. So in our job titles as people, you know, as the cards read, you know, there's nothing, you know, nothing on this earth is greater than the other in the eyes of the creator. Nothing is greater than the whatever the other thing is. Nothing is ever greater, equal to, but nothing is ever greater in the eyes of the creator. Everything is equal in the eyes of the creator. It's us and monkeys like us that come up with, well, you know, um, the airplane mechanic's more valuable. Well, not to my son who has problems with the scooter all the time, and old mechanic Joe down here at the bike shop keeps him running all the time and keeps him safe. I kind of vote on our local mechanic. Just saying. So here's a 20, y'all. God bless yous. All is equal in the eyes of the creator. It's only us that make those distinctions. Cheers. So, in all of these and all of this, we keep looking out for each other. For me, I was just, you know, retrospecting on, you know, am I doing what, you know, Mother Mary asked me to do? Am I doing what my soul contract sort of is or was? Not quite sure what it is, but you know, I'm here to do these things, interact with people, and I did puppet shows and laughter. So, you know, I have changed here at the end. I'm not doing puppet shows like I did, but I'm still trying to interact with people. I'm still doing things. My reevaluation is, you know, am I doing what I could do, or am I only doing enough to get by? Now, only I can answer that. And what I'm kind of sort of coming to is like, man, dude, you know, you're kind of sort of only doing what you need to get by. You'd made promises to yourself that you were going to start doing this, and you made promises year, 2, 3, 4 years ago that you were going to do this and work on that. And have you done it yet? No. But I ain't dead yet. Time ain't up. Um, so can always look forward to making changes in the future, positive changes that hopefully positive changes for me, and that some of these things that I wish to do, I hope will be positive changes for other people too. So as far as storytelling and things like that, I hope it will be, you know, beneficial to other people as well. So, but anyway, it's up to us to make what we want to do. You know, really, we can make our lives what we want to. Now, they took our jobs away, and a lot of us lost our income. We lost the means for how we could pay our bills and how we could do what we needed to do. So that was not our fault. All right. And that's what the bad part was. And so every single one of us, and 750 people that got laid off, every single one of us had to figure out another way. And none of what any of us ended up doing was nowhere near what our benefits and our pay and everything was when we worked at the factory. So, but we still managed to make it. We still managed to figure it out because, by God, we are resourceful human beings. So, the answer to sometimes things like storms, that storm was a corporate storm that stormed in and stole our business and took it to Mexico. They stormed in and got us. So, just much like a hurricane that destroys shit, you don't really know what to do, but there's a mess. You got to keep moving. You got to figure out another way to make some kind of income. You got talents. You know that there's a way out of the mess that has been created not by you, but by circumstances. So figure it out. Believe, believe, believe. You go, Hawkeye, believe in what? Believe that you have the talent. You've made it this far. Whatever the creator, the good Lord, the earth, the cosmos sends us, if we have faith in our core values and our beliefs, if we have faith that when we need the information, the universe will provide the information we need to succeed and get our ass out of a quagmire. Yep. And that we can turn into our matrix if we want. But so I'm asking folks to think back over, because COVID stuff, kind of interrupted. Do you still believe in here what you believe, or better, how do you believe, from what you believed 4 years ago? Has anything changed? Do you feel better or do you feel worse? In September and October last year, I thought the world was going to come to an end, and then we had the election. And so I absolutely feel that we as a society have turned a corner. So I do absolutely feel there's a different energy in the air. Feel it, it's palpable. So when it feels better, it feels different, but not everybody feels that way, right? So for me, it feels good. For me, it feels like, yeah. So, but has it changed us from 4 years ago, 5 years ago, before the COVID and the lockdown and everything? Because that's changed a bunch of people's opinions and spirituality and all that. So, how do you feel after that? Do you feel it feels compressed? Feels like everything was kind of squashed in, right? And right now it feels like don't feel as compressed. It feels like there's space now. It feels like there's room to get around and to get things done. And so I think that the world's going to make it. What's up with the? I've cleaned my whole kitchen whilst listening. Well, good. Come clean mine. It wouldn't take you but 5 minutes, but lucky. After cleaning is done is the best feeling. See, there you go. Talking about feelings. You know, um, Cleaning up the kitchen and making sure all the dishes are cleaned. It's a great feeling. Or, running the vacuum cleaner and straightening up the pillows and the couch and everything. And you got folks coming over and the house is all nice and clean and sparkly and maybe you've used some, stirring wax on the floors and it smells good and the floors are, and you feel good about it. The house feels better. And it's like, what? You walk in and you look and you take a breath and the house feels better. Well, how can a house feel better, right? But in us and how we work things and in this quantumness of stuff, you mop the floors in the house and the house feels better. It does. It's an inanimate object, but it feels better because you scrub the floors. You wash the truck, she feels better. you know, you do certain things, you cut the grass feels better. It just, the whole thing looks nice and shiny and green, and so we can interject our feelings by the positive things we do in this world. We can feel good after we clean the house. We can feel good because, we can feel good because we helped a neighbor clean their house when they felt bad. There are all these different things that we have done, can do, and what some folks would call the matrix of life, and I just call it life. There is matrix to stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, but I don't think everything is runs in this complicated stuff. I could very well be wrong, but um, and I because I think folks have overused the word matrix. I do, but anyway. But so our interactions, we put good thoughts in it, we put good vibes in it, we put a good muscles and cleaner, and the house is clean. We feel better. When we feel better, it emanates within the house. When people come over and they can feel the energy in your house and they go, wow, the house feels nice and clean and woo, and all of that is good positive energy spread out into the quantum field. There ain't nothing wrong with that. So, in our retrospection of over the last few years, because now that we've come out of this Kali Yuga thing, now that we're getting bombarded by galactic energy waves and magnetism, now that we're literally, into this age of Aquarius, there's a lot of different energies and things, and the the introspection and retrospection, in other words, going back over stuff you've done, is not necessarily to find flaws. It's to go back over it and look for any inconsistencies and also any patterns of consistency. Well, the last 6 months, me and Barry were comparing notes, and he was like, well, this happened. Yeah. And then about 2 or 3 weeks later, this happened. Yeah, that's right. And it was just a couple of days later that this happened. Remember that? Oh, yeah. So over the last, 6 months, we've had this happen, this happened, this happened, this, but, and it's not necessarily in a line, but it has come, and it was all about the same topic, and it did come to both of us at different times. But the fact that it's like, so you look back over things in retrospect just to see, is like, wow, there's a pattern there. Could be a good pattern. It could be a nasty pattern that you want to get rid of. But so the retrospection that we should be doing now is to look at our lives now versus how we had to change during COVID. And we did. Everybody had to change somehow. Some people are still scared to death, right? They still wear masks. And, Fauci lied about it. He made it up. So, and they're going after Fauci too, by the way. Oh boy, second boys. But so I'm praying that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And that people will understand what I mean by introspection. I'm hoping, and there are some folks kind of sort of doing it on their own. They're like, well, 6 months ago it was like this, and now it's starting to look like that over there. Oh, well, that's interesting. Well, how do you feel? Well, I don't feel as stressed, and I feel like there are good outcomes in the future. I guess I feel better. Okay, let's keep that good thought up, right? So we all need to introspect. What did we feel like 5 years ago? And how do we feel about the same thing now? Has anything changed? For me, it has. I have visited my brothers and sisters in Ohio, promised to go back, haven't done it. But I did meet them, and there were some things, settled. So with that introspection, there was some family issues, but the cost of everything has kept us from reuniting again. But okay. So in introspection, it'd be nice to follow back up on that. Um, there are some other things in introspection would like to have done in the last few years, but with the lockdown, shutdown of things, just not able to do them. Um, whether I could afford them or whether it was against the law. I mean, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff. So now all of that stuff is much freer. So now I have the opportunity to plan ahead a little bit. Before, planning ahead just meant maintaining what I had. Make sure that I got enough rolls of toilet paper to get through until they bring another, shipment in. When's that going to be? I don't know. So I'm going to use two squares. I'm going to make my toilet paper that I got last. So now we ain't worried about the toilet paper. You know what I mean? So that's changed for us. There are other things that have changed for us that are folks and sending their kids off to school and what they're going to do for summer program. All of these things have changed. It's changed people's opinions. It's changed their spirit, mostly for the bad until now. But with the hope that we got now, we have to believe, and believe, and have faith. Whatever we had a few years ago, we can bring it back. Whatever we thought was dead and gone might not be so dead and gone. It might be that it's just been retired for a little while and it's time to go out and dig it back up and put it back to work. So, my friends, I will continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. Don't get bogged down in the matrix. Yeah, we got stuff we need to do, and yes, it does involve our feelings and our energies. Hey, Bernicia, how you doing? But the thing that's most important is that even on a bad day, we can make a smile. We can have a positive thing regardless of the weather, regardless of how nasty it is. Some days are nastier than others, and sometimes it requires a lot of effort to smile on those days. But the thing is we have the power to smile and change our energies. We have the power to take a different road, to go over here, to help someone, not help someone, jump in the river, not jump in the river. We have the opportunity to do so many simple things in our life that might somehow, it's going to affect the universe. We just don't know how. So have another 20, keep it between the ditches. We got to look out for each other because in this moving into the fourth dimension, we have got to be able to learn how to communicate with each other through the third eye. We have got to learn how to do that. Some people are going to go kicking and screaming because they're not going to want to do it. But for those of us who are paying attention to things, we have got to learn how to communicate using our third eye and that extrasensory perception. These next couple of months and years and so forth, as we're breaking through this veil, people are going to be freaking out in some things because they're like hearing voices and shit. That's because they're going to be hearing voices and shit, you know? So, but we are not going into the fifth dimension. I want to reiterate. We have to go through the fourth first. So there's a lot of, I bitched about it the other day when I was doing this. We are not going into the fifth until we go through the fourth. We must learn how to use to speak with our thoughts and to use our third eye. And we can't go into the fifth until we learn how to do that. So all these folks that are claiming the fifth, you can just type in the comment section, not till we learn how to use our fourth, our third eye. Oh, but we're going to go about it, not till we learn how to use our third eye. Well, we're going to do this and it's going to be like that. Not if we can't see the fifth dimension because we haven't learned how to use our third eye. Come on. I hate to burst your bubble, but y'all are wrong. And there are, I don't know what energy spreads this false narrative about, the fifth dimension. And these are folks who are supposed to be connected spiritually. Some of them do cards and things. And so where do you get, we're all going to the fifth right away. Oh, well, the angels and the stuff and this and that, but pay attention. We don't need angels to tell us it's third, fourth, fifth, sixth. in the universe is numerically fourth is next, not five. You can't skip a grade, So anyway, why am I saying this? I guess that you can keep it in your own mind that what is our jobs in the future, and especially like even in the near future, it's the understanding that we really are the planets, all the planets are reacting differently. The blackout in Spain and Portugal the other day was due to an electromagnetical thingy that came out of the atmosphere and whacked them. So a lot of stuff going on in the galaxy. And we are absolutely getting more energies. Some of these are gamma rays and other kinds of stuff. Some of them are highly charged electromagnetical things that absolutely can affect our bodies, And some of these scientists are freaking right the mess out. So are you feeling different? Sure, everybody is. So now that you know that part, calm down. And you go, but Dave, yeah, calm down. It could very well be the magnetic stuff. Sit down, ground yourself, and know that there are external, not necessarily evil forces, but there are external forces that are messing with everybody. And sometimes one side of the planet more than the other. Chill out. Really, chill out. And that, oh my God, the lights went out in Georgia. And oh my Jesus. Yeah, but they came back on the next day. Oh, but the lights went out in Georgia, but they came back on the next day. Oh, but the lights went out. That was the night the lights went out in Georgia. Anyway, so, but they came back on. But everybody focuses on they went off. Yeah, and I go, wow, I'm focused on they came back on. How long were they off? Not long. But the lights are back on, So, Focus on the lights are back on, you know. Are there electromagnetical things that are messing with stuff? Absolutely. And some of these things can click us on and not too, by the way. So use the energies that we have. Be careful of these other energies that I think these energies are going to give some people a false sense of dread. Some of us are going to go, oh, wow, what's this? You know, holy crap in a bag. You know, what was that? And I had felt that way. But there are other people, and I'm thinking of somebody I had a conversation with today, that they're going down the tubes the opposite way. They just can't see any. They're just kicking and screaming and throwing and breaking shit and just totally different than what they have been. They only had minor issues with the throwing and breaking, and now it's like they're mad and angry and all the time. And it's like, so what changed? Well, he's still doing his job. He's still doing this, but his mood's different. I mean, really different. He was always moody, but now it's like really different. So what changed? The electromagnetical stuff around the planet is affecting some of these people. And it looks like it's just driving them nuts. So, be careful. It seems like, well, that's not true. It seems like at the moment, there are more men that are going a little squirrely than women, but not by much. I think it's the personality that just certain personalities are going wacko. And I continue to pray that these folks will work it out. Um, the wise words of men shall carry us, and I'm not so full of gratitude. And I'm so full of gratitude for the way. What? Okay. Yeah, the thing in Spain is was and it was caused by a burst from the sun and the galaxy of high electromagnetical charge, and um, our our magnetosphere around the Earth has been very low and weak. And when this puppy came in, it made our magnetosphere shrink to down to the atmosphere of the planet kind of thing, where normally it's a million miles out in front of us, the magnetosphere crushed right on down to the atmosphere kind of thing. And so this energy came in and plowed them. And we've been hit by some other stuff. And guess what? Because our magnetosphere is so weak at the moment, along with some of the other planets and moons in our solar system, by the way, it ain't just us, that until things change with the magnetosphere of the planet, we're still going to get smacked. Well, what are we going to do? We're going to hang on. Years ago, I said, grab an inner tube, that there were going to be ups and downs. It was going to be wavy. I keep talking about it, right? Get in your inner tube because it's going to keep going like this. We're going to get some parts of the planet, like Portugal and Spain, they got the blackout. Next time, it could be Argentina. And the time after that, it could be Mexico City. And the time after that, it could be Seattle. I mean, it depends on the circumstances of where this thing will occur and where the weak spots are in our shield. I got to get out of here. The battery's running out. Here's a really bad but simple analogy. For those of us who had vehicles back in the day, my old 51 Chevrolet, if you were in the summertime, you're running down the road and you see little steam come out from under the hood, you should pull over. Takes a couple of minutes. Had a little bottle that would run across the top of the radiator to pop the top off, release the steam, and then engine still has to run, right? And so you pour water into the radiator until it brings it up to the top, and you put the cap back on. I'd get in my truck and keep driving. You had to do it, or the engine would blow up. It would overheat. You had to. Now, there are people like my ex wife who would just drive the fudge out of the thing. She'd drive it into town and back home and not check the water once in the middle of July when it's 110 outside and the pavement's even hotter, right? So you get home and the truck's going bloop, bloop, bloop. There's not a drop of water before they had Prestone, antifreeze. So you put water. But, so there were people who were aware. So if you were aware that, it's an old truck, it's going to, you need to top it off with water when you get to town. It's not hard to do. And then because it's an 18-mile ride home, in the summertime, it's hot on the highway. And that you need to make sure if there's any steam coming out, you pull over and make sure that radiator don't run over, but don't get hot. So if you're aware of it, your engine, and my engine ran great. I rebuilt it, right? Oh man, that was run like a scalded dog. But it was fine until somebody else got a hold of my truck while I was in jail, and they ran it hot and screwed up the engine. What? You dumbass? All these years I've been, and now we have, antifreeze. Back then, when I had the truck many, many years ago in the 70s, it was kind of hard to get antifreeze. It wasn't just everywhere back then. But now, buy at a local hardware store, right? So, but you couldn't put antifreeze in it. Well, I know everything leaked on it, oil and this and that. You had to check the oil. It was a daily thing, right? It was an old truck. It ran great, but you had to take care of it. Just like an airplane, you have to walk around and kick the tires. You have to make sure there's nothing stuck in the intake or the props are okay. If you're a trucker, you got to walk around your semi and make sure all the tires are good. Make sure all your lights are running. You got to do it, so, but there are people who have not a clue how to do any kind of system check, even for themselves. So that's part of what I was talking about a little bit ago about retrospection, introspection kind of thing. You don't know how to check your own tires. You don't know how to check to see if all your lights are on. You know, you need to sit down and do your own little checklist and see if everything's groovy. So after these last 4 years and a COVID takedown, how does your spirit feel after that? Has it recovered? Did you lose anything during that time? Going back with introspection, what things affected you? What things now trigger your ass, if anything? What pisses you off the most? Like now, what pisses me off the most now is there are people still wearing masks who think it's doing them good, right? There's still people that are keeping the distance in stores. And Fauci has admitted that he made it up. He made up the 6 foot distance, made it up. And it's out there. It's been published that he made it up. He admitted it. There's video. Now, there are people that are out there now that do not believe that that's the truth. They believe that that is the lie. Oh, no, we all had to keep 6 foot. I know. But he made it up. No, but it was Dr. Fauci. Everybody had to stay 6 feet away. There was tape on the floors. I know. I know. But they made it up. They lied about it. Are you listening? Are you listening, Joe? Hey, Joe, pay attention. They made it up. The distance, they made it up. And now but we got, there's still marks on the floor. We have to keep our distance. Are they ever going to catch on? Are they ever going to believe what he said, what Fauci said? When they interviewed him, he said, I made it up. So where do you stand after you find out that those things were made up? And that some of the things that were, given to people without any kind of testing. That RFK Jr. said, if you haven't watched it, you should. The interview with RFK Jr. and Dr. Phil, it was like on Wednesday. Very good, very good, very good. In depth, very good. And I've been watching RFK for years. Yes, he's the crackpot goofball, but he's getting all of the oil-based dyes out of food. He also mentioned in the cabinet meeting the other day that the DHS now is in control of child trafficking that has been going on in the federal government, and that it has stopped, and that 330,000 children, they're being investigated as to what happened. He said that in the cabinet meeting. And that also that some of the vaccine people were trying to tell folks that infants needed to be vaccinated. And he's like, no. Infants and young are the least to be infected by the COVID, and that they have seen, and until they do more research as to why not only do children, but also adults who have had the vaccine have had adverse reactions almost immediately. We are having doctors and scientists across the United States studying this now, and a commission to where they will all be able to report their findings to one location. So before, different doctors, different scientists, it's all in a different locale. And now they're setting up to where these scientists working together can talk to these scientists over here and exchange information and fix stuff. So for the people who say RFK's a kook and a renegade and all that, thank God. Because already they have jumped on this like stink on shit. He's really serious about the oh man, I had it and then I left it. Autism with children. And he keeps reiterating, he says, they keep misquoting me. and I have stood up for this too in talking about it, that he said they keep misquoting me. He said, I've said that 25% of autistic people fall in that really bad autism where they can't hardly function by themselves, and and he said, and the bad news keeps saying that everybody falls in that category. And he said, I have never said that. I don't mean to say it. There is 25% of the autism um, class of issues. The bottom 25% is the extremely bad autism. And so, that, but I'd heard another story and they were like, RFK says that all of this autism, they can't feed themselves and they can't do this. And he never said that. Never said. So, but regardless of what they're trying to make him what he said, they're working on a positive solution regardless. You know what I mean? He's like, I've been attacked so many times it doesn't matter. So how do you, Dr. Phil was like, so how do you feel about this? And he goes, I've been standing up for water rights and timber rights and these different things for the last 40 years. I'm an attorney. I'm an environmentalist, an environmental attorney, and have been brought litigation and have won cases. He's won cases against the United States government. So now he's in charge of it. So I see positive changes where other people are like, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. But just the fact that they're taking, um, finally, they're taking that nasty shit out of, out of water, the fluorides, and hopefully they will start taking it out of toothpaste and things. It's poison. It's poison. And finally, people are going, "Wow, I didn't know that." Oh yeah, the Nazis used it in the concentration camps during World War II to keep the people there docile, and they've been putting it in our water for the last ever since World War II to keep the population docile. Now think about this. I don't know what the recovery rate is or would be. So for folks who have had a large intake of fluoride, will their brain recover? Will they become smart again? Is the fluoride, if discontinued, will the brain recover from that? What if the brain, if they take the fluoride away, which I absolutely agree they should do, they take the fluoride away. What if millions of people start having withdrawal symptoms because they took it away? I got well water. I don't have fluoride, right? So, but people in town get fluoride all the time. So, friends of mine have lived in Thomasville for 40 years plus have been working with fluoride in their water. Take a bath in it, they wash their hair in it, they cook them, fluoride. So their children have had it, and um, and so if you take the fluoride out, people keep drinking the water and use it and everything, and but is their body going to somehow crave and want that fluoride back? They don't know. So here's the thing: if you live in an area where there's fluoride in your water or was, And they've recently taken it out because they've said no more, take it out of the water. So now people are like, oh, no more fluoride in the water. Oh, good. So the water tastes better. And people seem to be getting along okay. So, but as their brain clears without the fluoride, does it make the brain more aware of something else? It increases their awareness of what? Well, it increases their awareness. What? Well, awareness. Oh, okay. It increases it. Yeah. Well, they're just more aware. It's kind of hard to put a number on that one, right? But in that, so they've all become more aware, and in doing so, maybe like this guy that's agitated and breaking shit, maybe his body's having a withdrawal because he's used to so much fluoride that he ain't getting now. So his brain's supposedly clearing up, right? But then there is a lack of that fluoride. So I'm just curious. So, but in this near future, if we see people in municipalities that are starting to act a little weirder, maybe not necessarily bad, but just, um, it could very well be the fact that they have removed the fluoride from the municipal from the municipal water sources. Just putting it out there. So, man, I've been on here. This thing is going to lose a battery in a second. I love you all. I do. I do. Please be safe. And, don't let these people drive you nuts, and do a little bit of homework and use some common sense on some of these things where this is how it's going to go. Maybe not, you know. And there's a lot of time between now and then. And there's a lot of things that can influence those things. So keep your thoughts as not necessarily pure, but, without conflict if you can. And no, we are, yes, we are all a part of the great puzzle. And don't freak out about it. Cheers. Because I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Butterfly and Bernicia. Never let losers get to you. Well, there are some people who are successful, but they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground either. So be careful. Like I was stating, the last video I did, and I'll mention it again about the people who keep coming up with we're all going to ascend into the fifth dimension. No, we're not. We're going to slide into the fourth, but we're not, so where they keep getting this information that's false, but they keep repeating it as gospel. And, and we're all moving into the fifth dimension, not to the fourth, but that's one of the kind of things that get started and that people believe in, and that's not really the truth. Eventually we're going to the fifth, you know. But anyway, so I love you all. Please be safe. And cheers. And until next time, somewhere there's a how to get out of here. Oops. I could sit here until the battery dies. No, but I can't. All right. Blessings to you all. Till next time.